We are familiar with the government officials, scientists, former intelligence officers, Air Force and Navy personnel, journalists, politicians, and others who have been pushing for disclosure about UFOs, particularly since 2017. However, the momentum for their current actions was built over decades, when similar clarion calls were issued for information about non-human intelligences by high-ranking individuals and influential personalities, often in the face of ridicule. In this video, we'll take a look at one of those prominent voices who, through his untiring and spirited efforts, brought humanity closer to learning the truth about the existence of extraterrestrial life. Sir Eric M. Gairy was the Prime Minister of Grenada, an island country of the West Indies dubbed the Spice Isle, from the mid to late 1970s. He held a slew of portfolios, including Minister for Foreign Affairs and Defense. On November 27, 1978, Sir Eric made an unprecedented move for a head of state, then, or in present times, when he led a group including scientists and an astronaut in addressing the United Nations General Assembly in New York on the subject of unidentified flying objects. He had brought a short film along with him, which consisted of still and motion pictures depicting actual sightings of UFOs. An important milestone in the history of ufology, the official UFO hearing held at the United Nations Special Political Committee witnessed the participation of notable international institutions, scientists, and military personnel. Prior to delivering his speech at the UN, during a bilateral meeting with President Jimmy Carter in Washington on September 9, 1977, Eric Gairy had mentioned the UFO topic during his conversation, alluding to a resolution he had introduced on the agenda of the UN General Assembly proposing an international study of UFOs, as well as a study of psychic and other related phenomena. Gairy asked President Carter if he could support it. He added that he had no doubt in his mind that planet Earth was not the only one God created. During his address to the United Nations General Assembly, the Grenadian Prime Minister said that he had come before the august body because of a deep personal conviction that UFOs were of worldwide importance and significance. Eric Gairy emphasized that the UN needed to come alive to its responsibilities and take a serious look at the UFO phenomenon to which planet Earth has been conspicuously exposed since 1947. The Prime Minister then introduced a resolution which would establish an expert group to formulate guidelines for a UN-led study of unidentified flying objects. Interestingly, among other participants, the UFO study panel included astronomer J. Allen Hynek, astronomer and ufologist Jacques Vallée, nuclear physicist Stanton Friedman, astronomer and astrophysicist Claude Poher, and Lieutenant Colonel Larry Coyne of the U.S. Army, who appeared in his private capacity. Later, after gaining the approval of the panelists, Dr. Hynek presented a statement on their behalf on the need to initiate a centralized United Nations authority on unidentified flying objects. It should be stressed that this major recognition of the UFO topic by the United Nations was in many ways not just the culmination of the determined efforts of Sir Eric, but the sentiments he had expressed a year earlier to the UN General Assembly. Back in October 1977, Eric Gairy astonished the audience when he revealed, "I have myself seen an unidentified flying object, and I have been overwhelmed by what I have seen." Sir Eric also noted, "In the same way that this planet is the accepted inheritance of all humanity, knowledge is also to be shared for the benefit of all mankind. One wonders why the existence of UFOs continues to remain a secret." These words gain great consequence when we learn they aren't merely exaggerated statements made by a world leader who was a UFO enthusiast too. Strange as it sounds, well before his address at the United Nations and the eager push for UFO disclosure, Sir Eric claimed to have had his own personal encounter with an otherworldly being, albeit a dead one. On the night of the incident, Eric Gairy, who was spending his leisure hours in a popular Grenadian nightclub, the Evening Palace, was taken aback to see a local fisherman burst in and excitedly say he'd come across an odd-looking humanoid that had washed up on the beach. Eric, who was heavily interested in paranormal phenomena, quickly arranged a small military unit and a photographer. He then asked the man to lead him to the spot where the entity was found. Eric alleged later that when the investigating team arrived at the scene shortly before dawn, they witnessed a couple of fishermen at the site standing guard next to something covered by tarpaulin. When the men pulled the tarp back, Sir Eric and his group momentarily recoiled in horror, for their eyes beheld an inexplicable sight. An enormous humanoid creature nearly 8 feet tall, with pale white skin and white braided hair, lay soaking wet and motionless. With the facial features of an adult human male, the bizarre being's hands had 6 digits each. This extraterrestrial entity was clothed in a dark blue, skin-tight one-piece suit with footwear attached. As the sun rose, it became apparent to Sir Eric and the assembled crew that the entire beach was littered with weird metallic debris. 8 boxes were identified, of which only 2 could be opened with considerable difficulty. These boxes contained aquatic flora and fauna, as though the dead creature was on a mission to collect the specimens for study. 2 trucks, one for the boxes and another for the giant, appeared on the scene, and the peculiar cargo was spirited away to an undisclosed location. Although Sir Eric spoke about the incident in an interview, he never disclosed where the body had been taken, nor what became of the containers retrieved along with it. And of course, he wasn't forthcoming about the photographs they'd clicked on site. Prime Minister Eric Gairy earned a massive victory on December 18, 1978, when the UN General Assembly adopted Grenada's resolution to study the taboo subject of UFOs. But before any gains could be realized for the ufology community from the November 1978 UN resolution and subsequent discussions, Eric Gairy was dislodged from power in a bloodless coup in March 1979. Ironically, while he was away at the UN for further discussions with Secretary General Kurt Waldheim about the recently adopted UFO resolution. The meeting was canceled, and subsequently, given the timing of the coup, conspiracy theorists blamed the US and UK for sabotaging Sir Eric's bid for transparency and disclosure about unidentified flying objects. For now, all we're left with is speculation and great appreciation for Sir Eric's unwavering attempts to seek disclosure.